to show up as we the ARP committee's recommendations. So we thought for those of you that don't have the full awareness of what this program is, we give you a little overview before we got to that. So just a little background. Since the pandemic, a lot of things have changed within the modern workforce. 2021 was the first time since 1937 that the population grew by fewer than 1 million people. And because of that, we're in an unprecedented competition for talent to be in our communities. I'll give you some numbers there. Spend about 70 billion states, municipalities across the country to grow their economies, typically focused on attracting the large employers or expanding existing employers. But there's a novel thing that has happened since the pandemic, in that in 2019 there were 5 million full-time remote workers. Now we're up to over 40 million workers that are full-time remote and look to stay that way going forward after the pandemic. And 18 million of these remote workers are expected to move within the next 3 years. And a lot of this growth is going to be caused by the issue that people that necessarily weren't remote before the pandemic and are now aren't willing to go back to that old status quo. 58% of remote workers say they will look for a new position that offers remote flexibility if their current employers don't extend that way for them to work. And that's especially true of the younger generation, Generation Z and millennials. 81% of Gen Z would look for another job if they were forced to go non-remote, as same as 67% of millennials. So this adds a little more updated information. So 55 million workers that are now permanently remote. Nearly 1/3, 18 million, plan to move in the next 18 to 24 months. And these are people that are recruitable for communities like ours. They value affordability, space, community, and amenities that places like Logansport have to offer. And we'll show you the next slide. They're very valuable when it comes to the return on investment for a community. So this is just an example of one household that would move to a community. Their example is a software engineer that moves from San Francisco, one of the more expensive areas of the country. They're making $150,000 a year as their household income, and their annual economic output, if they bring that level of income and a trailing spouse, is $125,711, with an annual tax contribution of over $13,000. Local jobs created, that would be kind of in the service industry. As we have more population, you need more service industry professionals, and therefore more jobs are created as more people move to town. And net present value of something like that moving to town over the next 7 years is over $700,000. So that's just one example. So if you have a single worker that makes $100,000 a year, which a lot of these remote jobs are very well paying, their total local impact financially in year one is $37,000. This level is from local taxes. This is what the municipality would see directly from that. But the rest of that is going to local businesses, the local economy, where they're spending their disposable income. So that brings us to the organization that we've had some conversations with over the past couple of months. Several of the council members were involved in those discussions, as well as the ARP committee and community priorities group. And Make My Move is a company that has an online marketplace, a website that I'll show you here in a little bit, that helps to connect the people that are working remotely that may be interested in living in a place that's more affordable, getting out of some of the cities, as we've seen, and allows communities like ours to recruit them, tell our story, offer incentives to get these people to move them and their families here to town. And Make My Move in and of itself has pretty high demand and has been very successful over the last couple of years with communities in Indiana. Their site has over 1 million unique visitors. 60,000 of those are registered users and people that have applied to some of the communities on there. And right now they're up to 152 communities. Some of the ones that have worked with Make My Move recently are places like Bloomington, the Big Ten school area, not necessarily best comparison, but places like Greensburg, Indiana, Southern Indiana, I think, is a really good indicator of kind of where we would stand on some of these. But the average income for a lot of these, 67,000, 97,500 for Greensburg. So you saw the financial impact in the previous slides. I'm trying to extrapolate out on those numbers. So Greensburg is one of their bigger success stories. They got a lot of earned media on what they call some of their soft incentives. So the program is set up with matching funds through the IEDC that basically if a candidate goes through the portal, gets accepted as an eligible applicant, they're a remote worker, they live outside of the state currently, they're eligible to access this program, they would be able to receive a $5,000 stipend for basically to cover the moving costs, which would be given, typically it's half up front, then half after a year of being in the community. But one of the other things that communities do in this program is they find ways to offer soft incentives. So the one that was very popular in Greensburg and got them all over the national news was their Grandparents on Demand program, where they had some local retired couples who basically agreed, if we're going to get some of these, high-paying remote workers to come here and live in town, hey, if they need some childcare help, we're willing to be grandparents on demand, and they ran with that. But there's also other soft incentives. Some of those are, community members that are opening up their homes to be hosts, to help make them welcome to the community. Some co-working facilities that have offered some incentives as well as YMCA, farmers market, all the other types of amenities that the community could offer to attract them to town. And so in Indiana, the program is through the IADC. Their target is to get 628 new residents out of this with $25 million in annual economic output. So what that has done has made the IADC put matching funds toward this program. So you're able to get 50% of your local community's investment up to $250,000 matched one-to-one by the IADC. And they set up $1 million in matching funds for the program this year. It has been going fast. If we choose to go this route, we're going to be one of the last communities, I think, in this round that gets the matching funds, which is why I'm here and more of a sense of urgency than maybe we would be, because we want to be able to access, if we're interested in this, those funds and get some free dollars to get people to Logansport. So it's first in, first out, $250,000 limit, and there's about $300,000 remaining in that. Now, the ask that we're going to have, and I'll take you to the website here, in a second through our ARP recommendation, would be to use $150,000 of ARP funds to receive the IADC match. And before, actually, when I first scheduled to come talk about this, the thought was that it was going to be $150,000 for $150,000, which would get us 30 movers. So 30 people would move to Logansport through this program. And we'd be able to set the parameters on who would be eligible, and then we'd go around to the community and find the soft incentives that might entice people to want to live here. But since that happened, there's some new information that came out on a partnership that the IADC has had with a prominent charitable organization, and I'm not sure how far they are in on that process to have me announce it here. But what that has basically allowed us to do is, for our $150,000, we'd be able to get $250,000 in matching funds. So it'd even be better than the 50-50. We'd be getting more money, more bang for our buck, and would actually be able to get 37 movers out of it instead of the 30. So we'd be able to move 37 people to town with an investment of $150,000, which one person, over a couple-year period, over a 5-year period, would match that $150,000 pretty easily in local economic output. So 37, imagine what that might do and how we might be able to partner that with some of our housing initiatives and other things like that and what we're doing downtown. But I'm taking you to the website now. This is what it looks like. So we'd be able to set up, so this is Jasper, Indiana. Really would be kind of a similar community to ours. I can click on this, and basically it tells you the incentives. So there's $5,000 moving stipend. It's basically just to de-risk the move, allow them confidence that they're not going to be losing money by moving somewhere, and it's basically a wash for them. They've included, passes for state parks. Local bank has participated with a checking account program, and they have some other tours of some of their amenities down there that they're throwing in to entice these people to come. In doing that, they go to local leaders, local business owners to kind of give their testimonials and talk about why this is a great place for someone that works remotely to live. It's cheaper, there's more opportunity, there's more things to do, it's a better community than where they were living, and then we can make our sell. So here's Southern Indiana's example. So they have Jasper, French Lick, Greene County does their own, Davies County does their own, so you can do them county by county, by region. We think Logansport has, enough unique to offer to do it ourselves, but you can go ahead if you have questions.
I was just going to ask you if you'd go back and show them what the guidelines are to be eligible. It was on the Jasper one there, so that like we couldn't be trying to entice somebody from Lafayette to come to Logansport.
Yeah, you have to live outside of the state of
It's in
Indiana
there somewhere.
currently.
It shows there you go, eligibility.
Yeah, must currently reside outside the state of Indiana, must be willing to move within 6 months, willing to stay for at least 2 years, and you can change that however you want. Must be a fully remote worker, so you have to get a testimonial from your employer that you're able to work remotely. And then you can set minimum household income. So they have it set at $40,000. We could set it at $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, whatever we wanted to do on our program. But I think the real key is the availability of the matching funds for this right now. Getting $250,000 in state funds for, $150,000 on our end, and that all of that money doesn't get spent unless we're successful too. So I think that's another key point that I think when Dave may have shared with you the pro forma that they have set up. So they have, a number of fixed costs. The initial payments would come through the IADC, so we wouldn't be out any money early on. But realistically, our only fixed cost is about $62,000 out of the $150,000. So $62,000 of that would basically be for the marketing campaign, would be for hosting on the website and doing some of the advertising that we would have to do for that. And then the rest of the $150,000, so the 80-some thousand that we would have left within the program, wouldn't come unless we're successful. So unless people are moving to Logansport through this program, we wouldn't spend any more money other than that initial payment. So I'll open it up to questions. I'm not sure if you guys had time to look at the presentation or the information beforehand, but we as a group, the Priorities Committee and then the ARP Committee kind of unanimously thought that we're uniquely positioned to take advantage of this program. It's a great opportunity to get people moving to town. If we're trying to do these housing things, we need people to live there, and right now there's state money available for us to take advantage of, and if we don't, other communities will, and then we'll be left behind on this front.
I got a question. I like the idea. I think it's great. You say it's 37. We're shooting for 37 people to come to Logansport.
Yes.
Where are we going to put them? Where are they going to live?
Well, that would ultimately be up to them, but I think some of the things that we're trying to do with like the Lexington Village housing, with the downtown apartment housing, and any of our other initiatives on, doing some of our remodels of existing housing, that would put more emphasis on the need to do those types of things. And it would be on the person to, you have to have a signed lease, you have to have a, a purchase agreement on a home to be eligible to even receive the first $2,500 of it. And then you have to move here, obviously, to get all the other incentives and stay here for a year to get the other half. So that's one of the challenges that we're going to have, but it's also one of the opportunities that we have, I think, with trying to put 52 new single-family homes in and trying to fill up a 30-some unit apartment complex in downtown.
And this is moving within the city limits of Logansport, not the
If-
county.
If we set it up that way, yes. I mean,
I mean, but
that's how it would be.
benefit us tax-wise moving in the county.
Well, and that's a limit that we can place on it. That's a requirement that it would have to be within the city limits. Now, is there an economic benefit to someone living right outside of town in the county to businesses in Logansport? Yes. And so I think that would be part of the conversation. Maybe you have to live within whatever distance of the city limits.
Is the county gonna put up any money with us?
They haven't at this time. We could potentially allow them in, but if we wanted to, we could say you have to be within the city limits, and I think we'd be able to make that work.
I agree with my friend here. Right now, we don't have the housing. Yes, we're playing from the FDEC. If we build this, and if we build the land out off of Chase Road that we get from the state congressman or whatever he is.
Bypass too.
Yeah, pardon?
Bypass too.
Yeah.
You get start housing up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's chicken or the egg, because the people that are building, that housing or would want to build the next one would want to know that we have a pipeline of more people coming, because the way that housing developers look at us now is they go based on the census data, and, they see that we technically lost a very small amount of population according to the census, and so they say, you technically don't need any more housing. Now, we know anecdotally that's not true, but these are the programs that we can utilize to change that narrative and say, hey, we have the opportunity to move this many people, and this group has been successful in every deadline that they've had in every community that they've had so far. Now, I think we're reaching a little higher because we have some unique opportunities with what we're trying to do, and I think unique amenities to offer remote workers as well.
And there's only one spot left. When did this start? Just October 1st?
We went to the conference about it, several months ago?
Okay.
And then we started talking to the company. We had a couple of, I think maybe you guys were in one of the first conversations with them here, and then we had them come before the ARP committee to present, because it's, would be one of the eligible expenditures of that.
And the committee that came, were they out of?
The company?
Yeah.
They're out of Indianapolis.
Okay.
And I have the
And how
guys'
long
contact
they been in
information.
business?
Huh?
How long they been in business?
Several years. This is a new program from IADC, so it's changed for a while. They did some stuff for like the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, I believe, for a while.
But they've been in Indiana, you said, for several years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have the contact information. I actually have a Zoom call set up if you guys want to ask questions directly to the person. I didn't want to.
Yeah. And
Do it.
y'all first went to this when? You said several months. What does that mean? January?
It was later than that.
Yeah, it was.
I would say around April.
Yeah, it would have been April or May. That they hosted something in Indianapolis that Jonathan and I went down
And
and
why
attended.
did y'all decide at this time, almost November 1st, to present it? I mean,
Because we took it through the priorities in the ARP committee, and it came up as a,
Okay.
an option there, and so we are taking this forward as a package for what the recommendations are for our remaining ARP dollars, past what was spent for the police station. And so this is when they decided to bring it forward.
and how much ARP money we talking about giving them?
For this program specifically,
Yeah.
the request is $150,000.
150. How much we got left of that ARP money? Million and a half?
Yeah, and we have the requests broken down, so we can get more into the exact numbers and the other projects that are going to be
Yeah.
priorities.
Have you got
Later in
that
this
with you
Bill's
tonight?
going to be presenting that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bill is.
We-
Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
we just wanted the basics of,
And that-
we just wanted the basics of what this is.
I won't ask any more. I didn't know that. Willie's coming up. That's good.
Yeah, and I can connect you guys with the company themselves, so you can ask them questions directly and hear directly from them. But we thought it would be good for you to hear it from us, and that it's, you know, all of these people have heard the recommendations and the presentation from the people, and, you know, we decided to come forward and make that part of the ARP committee's request to the council.
Do we have any success stories from Tulsa or Jasper, Indiana, at how they're doing with it?
I think in what Dave had sent you, and it was on one of the
Chart.
slides, but let me see, I think I have it.
You know, good, bad, are they?
So,
Information in the packet I sent you.
so the total households moved and committing to moving year-to-date was 120. There are 295 people within those households, so it's a little over, you know, 2 people per household. And that's one of the things that isn't necessarily factored into the ROI numbers, is that if these people bring a kid, they're going to the school gets more money. What is it per student? You know? $6,500 per student. So if they bring a kid with them, then the school gets an extra $6,500 in funding as well. So there's even that kind of multiplier effect if we're able to bring families and hopefully, you know, more than one kid, young people, you know, that are going to stay here and maybe raise a family and all of that kind of stuff. But the total program dollars invested year to date is 1.2 million. That's between the state and the locals. The cost per household is about 10,000. Cost per new resident is 4,000. And the annual economic output generated by these 120 households in year one is 10.2 million. So for a $1.2 million investment so far, there's 10.2 million in economic output provided by these new households that are completely new to the state. So yeah, we're not pulling them from neighboring communities. We're pulling them from Illinois, California, New York, wherever.
Can you go over like the worst case scenario? Say like no one participates in this. What will we be out of the like 150,000 there?
Worst case scenario, we would be out. We'd be out 62,500 would be, because we would get 125,000 up front. So out of the $187,250, which is the fixed cost, 125,000 of that would come directly from the state and the new endowment partner. The rest of that up front would come from us to manage it, to get us on the website, to go through developing our plan for it. And then we, you know, have a 12-month marketing campaign for $62,200 or $500 at minimum. So it'd be 12-month marketing. The rest of the money that we would allocate wouldn't be spent unless somebody moved, and then it would be basically $2,500 per mover, because the other would come from the state.
What, at 12 months marketing, let's say we've recruited 10 people and our goal is 37. What happens then?
So the way that the funding is set up, and number one, they've assured me that they would continue on with the program as is, and we would just keep the money going. The state isn't going to claw back any money as long as we're spending it on the program. I have the agreements here. It's pretty clear on that. They just got this to me a little bit ago, so I can share that with you afterwards.
But we'd be paying them $62,000 a year then?
No. That,
Are we?
yeah, not if they were unsuccessful in the numbers. That's the.
They weren't, okay.
If we wanted to renew, so let's say they were completely successful or mostly successful, and we wanted to renew for the next year, then there would be some semblance of that would go towards us, but there would also be more matching funds that would be able to go towards it. So
So this marketing company down there, is that privately owned? Is that,
make my move. It is, I believe it's privately owned, yes.
by people in Indiana?
Yes. Yes, I think the main person behind it, I don't know his level of day-to-day involvement, Bill Osterly, who founded Angie's List and did all of that. And then this used to be known as TMAP, and I'm not totally sure what their relationship was with this before, but they got into this business a couple years ago, and they were able to convince IEDC that it was a good enough program that they put a bunch of their own money into it as matching funds for us. And like I said, I can share the contact information for these guys, so you can reach out to them on your own accord and ask, thorough questions. They're happy to talk to any of you, hop on a call, come up and present again. But we think it's a good program and a good opportunity for Logansport at this time.
Thanks.
Anything else? All righty. Thank you guys. Yeah, I'll send the new agreements and all that to you too.
I know most of you guys out there know, a lot of you have seen this. Is there anyone out there that had any questions or? Okay.
You want me?
So you can go ahead and exit out of it.
All right.
Jacob.
Thank you, guys. And if you have any more questions that you don't want to ask them, you can always get a hold of me.
All right, next up is Bill. He's going to do the ARPA presentation.
Thanks for having us. I'm representing the Priorities Group, and I'll go over who that is in a second. But I do want to just go through a couple things so we're all on the same page. We hear a lot about ARP, which is the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, which is a part of the American Rescue Plan. It delivers $350 billion to state, local, and tribal governments across the country to support their response to and recovery from the COVID-19 public health emergency. The three things under what they are, what they do, the program ensures that governments have the resources needed to. You can read them, but despite the pandemic, families, businesses struggling, public health and economic impacts, maintain public services with decline in revenue. And then the third bullet point, which will be a focus of a lot of this tonight, build a strong, resilient, and equitable recovery by making investments that support long-term growth and opportunity. This is what we call the Priorities Group. We've mentioned it several times to the council. I do want to thank this group. It's a dedicated group. We've asked them to come together twice a month. Our meetings are typically at least 2 hours, but twice a month for over a year now. And over the process, we've looked at, compiled, analyzed. We counted 112 projects going on in Logansport right now. That could be anything from a simple project to a complex project. But nevertheless, if you look around town, you'll see things are kind of busy right now. We've been analyzing about 112 local projects. I think we have good representation. As you see, we have 3, 6, 7, 8 of us here today. The mayor's office is represented with Mayor Chris Martin and Jacob. We have City Council, Jake Ladon and Dave Morris, myself with Economic Development. We have Aaron with Planning, Greg Toth with Logansport Utilities. Mike McCord, as you know, is a small business owner in Logansport. John Michael Price is a local banker. Those two, Mike McCord and John Michael Price, are also the president and vice president of the RDC group, also known as the TIF group. Becky Harris is with us for half of the meetings, and then now it's Joe Brewer, and they represent Logan's Landing. Michelle Dials, who's here tonight, is our meeting facilitator, but she is also the owner of the largest communications and resource network here in the county. So it's valuable to have her input as well. real quick on a timeline, going back to April, our group brought in Dwayne. Mercedes was there, along with, you know him very well, Eric Walsh. Andy Mauser, missed a U in there. Andy Mauser from Baker Tilly. They joined us. We discussed a lot of these projects that we're looking at. Our goal was to how best to assist with all the funding we have to look at. They also wanted to look at our list and to make sure that the uses that we think we want to use ARP are eligible. So we're not bringing something to you that's completely not eligible. Focus of our group was to build a strong, resilient, and equitable recovery by making investments that support long-term growth and opportunity. Then we jumped through April through August, and our group continued to meet, things that were not specific to ARP. We're into August, and we broke down the most important areas we believed that should get focused, and these areas are infrastructure, family homeowner needs, public health and safety, workforce and small business, housing, parks, and broadband. We prioritized our list of projects. We had scoring sheets. We had 112 different scoring sheets that we passed around. We independently scored them, and we came with basically a top 10 that we focused on and worked through. When we look at these things, several things we think about. How can we get these projects to move forward? One thing to list 112 things and just have them on a piece of paper, but how can we move these projects forward? Can our group be used for grant requests? A good example is, this is kind of where the talks for Logansport Utilities worked when we were looking to replace the water line replacement, that they just got this large grant. It actually, the meeting we had with Eric Walsh kind of springboard that opportunity, and they helped him with getting that grant opportunity. We look at, we seek private investors. You know, we never want to come to government and ask for money. It's not my favorite thing to do. So it'd be great if you had private investors for everything. And a lot of times you do, but sometimes incentives are needed. We looked at local, state, and federal funding sources. Come down quickly to September meeting, September 27th and October 11th meeting. Council specifically asked that we add Mark Bender and Mercedes Brew to our group. Mark Bender, through various and multiple requests with his work schedule, at the last minute he'd get called into work, but we asked every time. We even tried to move the meeting around. So we were not able to get Mark at the meeting, but Mercedes has made it to every meeting since. So thanks for requesting her to our meeting. Our focus at those meetings were specifically on ARP funding and the amounts for specific projects. Carl, a question you had earlier is how much money we have left. Well, here you are. We got $3.98 million. You as a council committed $2.5 million to the new police station, which fit a category perfectly for ARP money, which is maintain and enhance public services. That left, as you can see, $1.48 million for our group to vet through and look at these projects and say, what can't we get funded? What do we need help with? What would meet ARP funding? And that's what we're here tonight to do, is to request a few different things to add up to that $1.48 million. And before I get to the request, I do want to mention our goal as a group, and my goal has always been to find creative funding sources to get projects moving forward. I don't want to increase taxes. You never want to increase property taxes, but you always want to increase the property base, which is how you get your revenue through seed it in your general fund. So it's very important for us to get projects that raise the tax base, but not pass that burden on to taxpayers. And my internal goal is to always never come to you and ask for money. So when it comes to economic development, I have, and I still will, but my goal is not to. Your primary goal and what you do in government is to fund public safety and infrastructure. So I want to make sure you have as much money as possible for those projects. But with that said, even tonight's money, ARP, is not directly coming from you. It is approved by you. not your general fund. First up, quick reminder on the first commitment, I have $50,000 for workforce and small business. To refresh your memory on Resolution 2022-104, back in February 7th of this year, you guys voted in favor 6-0. I forget who wasn't here.
I wasn't.
Okay, Amy was not here. 6-0 in favor, nobody against it, to fund $37,000 to help Emilio's with the COVID and Melbourne Avenue Relief Fund. In the minutes, you will, if you look back, you will see that we also talked about our goal was to replenish seeded dollars. We use seeded dollars. Our goal is to replenish seeded dollars through potential ARP funding. So 50,000 is not 37,000. We have another business that was directly the most impacted along with Emilio's, and that is the People's Winery. People's Winery not only had Melbourne Avenue closed for 2.5 years, they had 3rd Street closed a couple times, if you remember. So you couldn't even really get to them. So we used the same formula. I worked with Dave Morris on this. The same formula we used for Emilio's, we used for People's Winery. I've collected 4 years of tax returns. I've done a shock on their revenue, their income taxes, and saw how much revenue they lost over that dip period of the 2.5 years. And then we took that times their profit margin specific to them. We minused out any COVID relief dollars they got, because I know that was also during COVID, so if they got COVID money, we didn't want to double dip. With all that said, we have them at approximately $7,200. So $37,000 for reimbursement for Emilio's, $7,200 for the People's Winery puts us at $44,200. That leaves about $5,800 left. We're still working with companies that may have been directly affected, but we thought it's just good to have that extra in case others come forward. And I'm going to give you guys the hard copies.
Have any questions on that one before we move on?
And why it was reflation? Give it
That-
back?
We didn't think that was a direct seeded. That's where we took it from in February, but the minutes reflect that we all in consensus thought that it would be best to reimburse seeded from ARP because it's more direct ARP funding, not seeded. Any more questions on that 50,000? The next one is what Jacob just presented. We've had it, I won't go through all that, but they've probably been here 3 times. I don't think we delayed it too much. I think we were just vetting the process, and through those 2 or 3 months, they've had a lot more successes. So I'm kind of glad we took that 2 or 3 months to not be the beta tester of this program. But make my move. Again, $150,000. IEDC match will be $200,000. That's all in at $350,000. We think it's proactive. We're even looking at these new housing we're looking at in the apartments, and the floor plans are completely different these days. It's not about 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. It's about how many offices do you have? Is it 2 bedrooms, 1 office, 2 bedrooms, 2 offices? So we're actually going to work with the developer of Lexington Village to possibly work on a couple model homes that might work around this Make My Move remote worker situation. But again, this would fund 37 matches. Yes, city limits would increase your property taxes. City limits would increase your income taxes. And then you have the spending economic output. Because whatever money they make, they're going to spend it. So hopefully it's at our new mall or the new Culver's or our existing businesses throughout Logansport. And as Jacob mentioned, if they move here and they have 2, 3, 4 kids, that's a benefit to our school systems that would receive those funds.
What's the timetable on the building of the apartments and the housing?
Oh,
We're talking 2023, 2024, 2025?
we have a long process. It's all coming to fruition right now. On Wednesday, you'll We will hear the award for the infrastructure. We have a company that has bid for the infrastructure, so they're going to do what they can do in 2022 and then finish it up 2023. That's for the complete build-out of that whole addition. We're going to have developer interviews coming up soon.
So there's gonna be more than one developer?
No,
One.
it's going to be one. We're able to interview as many as we want, but ultimately it's one developer.
And what's the pros and cons for just one developer?
Depends on who they are.
Gonna be local?
One of our two is local.
Okay.
Yes. Completely local.
I guess my concern on make my move, and I have family members in that socioeconomic status that have encouraged to move back, and their concern, which is completely understandable, is the air quality of our community, because that's still a big unknown. So I'm personally, until I know that, 'cause this is all just started, I'm not comfortable. And they're even like encouraging us to move because, I mean, we have a big unknown in my opinion.
Did you say air quality?
I
didn't hear
said
you.
air quality.
I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been talked about a lot,
Yeah.
so.
And that's above my intelligence. I know you guys have spent money for monitoring. I know they're monitoring, but I assume your WSP is your reference.
So far, I mean, we've been,
Yep.
but we're just getting started. And I know my son, he is reluctant to move back due to that, and I have a nephew too.
All I can tell you, Amy, is, it's like you said, it's early on. I reached out last week to Mike English out there at WSP. He's the plant manager. We typically get together about every 3 months, compare our findings from our monitor with what theirs are, look at wind direction when we look at the different results that we have. To date, there have been some interesting spikes from time to time, nothing that's ever come close to the minimums even, but yet they're unexplainable. I'm not gonna kid you about that, but I think that, at least from Mike's perspective as the plant manager, he's doing everything he can to assure that they abide by the quality guidelines that IDEM has put out.
Are they at full operation, extracting zinc yet?
That's a question I can ask you. Last time I talked to them, they were not, but that's been 3 or
Yeah.
4 months ago.
Yeah, it was originally, they was gonna start full
That's-
zinc extraction in March, and here it is, almost November. And I was told by, that they're not, but I don't know, maybe they are.
I don't know either.
That's on the electricity that they use out there coming from the Logansport utilities. So, I agree with you, Amy.
The next request is focused in the mall area, not specifically to the mall, but in the mall area. And before I get to that, just to introduce, this is, you can stand up, this is Joe DiCasola. He's the developer we've been working on for way too long. A couple years now? Couple years, yeah. Early, or 2019 to my memory. But it took a lot of time to get to here. And so this is Joe, and if there's questions, we can, if I can't answer them, we'll bring Joe up. We'll go through that. The focus here is, I want to focus on the Junction area. If you go up around the mall area, the mall's not even open. It's a busy place already. People drive around that thing, and the footprint is Joe's footprint, but most of the use doesn't come from what he does. So it's used by other people. There's a lot of businesses up there that use this pavement and the roads and the lighting. So just keep in mind there's a common use thing here. And what we want to focus is on the exterior, asphalt, sewer, lighting, things like that. A couple things to bring to light. I just want to remind council that the numbers I give you here, I am yet to come to council for $1 on this project, or the mall, or the hotel project. So those two combined, pretty substantial investment that we have not requested $1 yet from city council. Now, I know you have approved the bond, which is a pass-through of some of the taxes, so thank you for that. Joe to date in his company has what you see out there now, and to finish out Harbor Freight, he is approximately at $6.1 million out of his pocket, his investment. The total budget is right at $12 million on the next phase. We'll get to there, but we're ramping that up already. He's at $6 million. I've heard speculation that, the developer's going broke, and you hear these things, and it's just completely inaccurate. Now, there's some things that have happened that I wouldn't want to be in his shoes over the past couple of years, but he bought the property a week before COVID hit. That caused a lot of stuff. That caused a lot of retail issues. You've heard about material delays, cost of materials, labor shortages. That's played into it. And interest rates are extremely high right now. All these things that he knows as an investor, you take on as risk. But nevertheless, I want to kind of throw out the trifecta that has come before us. And as you can see by looking at it, it has not slowed down progress. If you haven't driven by in a while, hopefully you appreciate the new parking lot and the building and the sidewalks and the things going on out there. Those two projects that we're looking at in this area are right at about $25 million. Again, that we haven't requested $1 for. When I talk about looking at alternative, creative funding sources, that's what we've done. So about $25 million out there. It's going to bring, once reassessed, they're going through reassessment now, about $370,000 in annual tax. That I think we had 58 to 62,000 total before Joe came to town. So it's going to put us about $370,000 annual in property taxes. Of course, employment numbers, they're unknown right now, but the hotel's got employees, the mall's going to have employees, the economic impact, and just the visible. You drive in on 24 and you stay in one of those two hotels, you're not looking at a dilapidated, fallen down building. So with that, the curb, or the asphalt alone, we still have $300 and some thousand left to spend on that piece that you haven't even seen finished yet. The sewer project ran north of about $500,000 to $550,000. RDC did help out there, but he shouldered $250,000 on a sewer project that ran underground that basically didn't even do much for him. What it does is it services the other buildings around him. So our group that you see out here and our group that I listed is in full consensus that we want to help assist the area with the infrastructure that we have listed up here for $400,000.
What's the timetable for this $25 million project?
Well, the mall, I can tell you half of it, which is the hotel.
Well, the 25 million you mentioned, that's what I wanted to know.
Correct, it's the hotel and the mall.
Okay,
The hotel represents about half of that.
12 million, 12 and a half? Okay.
Yes. And they were projected to be open in early October. Here we are. Now they're hoping for mid-November. There's a couple of finish out building products that they can't get. They're waiting on inside. But for the most part, we're hopeful in about 2 to 3 to 5 weeks, 4 weeks, the hotel. I know from Harbor Freight, they're hustling to be open by Christmas because of Christmas sales. far as the rest of the timeline, Joe, if you would like to.
Turn over the space park. We turn over the Harbor Freight space to first week of November for their contractors to come in, take possession and finish out the interior. Dunham's the same thing, second week of November, we're gonna be taking down the partition wall in Dunham's, giving them the new storefront. Central paving, we finished the paving within the next couple weeks in front of them all. We got a final coat and all the striping. We've got a handful of LOIs that we're under NDA, but 2 of them are Inspire brand products, which will go between the bank and Dollar Tree, 2 chain restaurants. And Inspire brand owns a variety of chains. We have 2 other LOIs that will occupy the Sears building, which will take us in our phase 3 construction. We go to lease. By the third quarter of this year, the entire site should be completed. We started demolition on the Sears. I don't know if you guys noticed, we took down all the awnings, the painting on the side of the building. We're preparing for our 3rd phase. After commencement, we should have the majority of that completed by the end of summer, 3rd quarter latest.
So the 3rd quarter of next year by September, then
Correct.
the 2023, the $25 million. On the 400,000, why are we given this? Why not go to the bank and borrow?
He has. To fill the gap that as materials rise, as banks do their loans, they do X percentage of every draw. With the material issues and delays, they're still doing what they're doing, but there's a gap now.
But if the bank is a bank and knows what they're doing, they would have wrote that in when they loaned the money in the first place, or at least most people that I know that are bankers in other states, in Tennessee and Texas and Louisiana, would have all that in it. They're the 3 that I've been talking to and want to know why the extra 400,000 was not in the bank loan in the first place. I don't know. I told them I couldn't give an answer because I said they was coming after the city to donate 400,000.
Carl, maybe I could better explain that a little bit.
Okay,
Typically, when you go in for bank financing, especially on a commercial project, the bank lends money based on cash flow.
right,
And if I go and get a lease signed, say, from, Carl McPherson for $10 a square foot,
right,
and you lease 10,000 feet, $100,000 your annual, the bank's gonna lend me 75%
right,
of those
for
dollars.
commercial, right,
For commercial. What the bank doesn't anticipate, if I go in and say, hey, it's gonna cost me X amount of dollars, that $100,000 can borrow me, say, $1.5 million.
right,
Here's my cost of $1.5 million. I go ahead and spend the $1.5 million. I start getting material shortages. I already have $1.5 million. My ratios at the bank, if I'm at 75% LTV, it throws the ratios off. So, for instance, if my infrastructure work went from $300,000 to $550,000, let me finish, went to $550,000, I'm short $250,000. And it doesn't include the increase of interest rates. For example, the 2.5% increase when we originally signed our original loan docs, we're up 2.5%. So that means every $1 million that we borrow is $25,000 more. a
yeah.
year.
So, okay, so the commercial loan you went on wasn't a fixed rate, it's a variable, okay.
The variable rate. So just the interest rate spikes alone, we're at $6 million. We've got about $2 million equity.
And are we ahead or behind time schedule with the bank of cash flow coming in?
No, we're about at par with them. That's why the $400,000 would assist drastically. Because I have to come out of pocket these additional dollars, which I have been doing with the sewer infrastructure work. The bank would not lend any additional dollars because the increased interest rates now throw my ratios off. So for instance, if my loan payments are, say, $10,000 a year,
Yeah.
at $10,000 a month, and the increased interest rates, 2.5% for every $1 million.
Oh, yeah, I understand that,
So my cash flow now is, with $4 million in current debt,
yeah,
$100,000 more in expense, just in interest alone. The bank doesn't cover that. That means I have fixed cash flow. So if I have 4 tenants that are paying me X amount of dollars a month, I can't raise my rent with those tenants, I'm on a fixed, 5 or 10-year lease. And the only escalation I have in my leases is a predetermined from when I initially do the lease deal. So some of my tenants, I have, some escalation annually, but it doesn't cover my short.
Oh, I understand that. How much money did we kick in for the sewage lines there?
It's 300.
300,000.
300? And now we're gonna kick in another 400,000?
It wouldn't only be for the sewer work.
No, this is for, the lighting, the curbing, the asphalt.
But
The
even
sewer's done, right?
we finished the sewer work, yes.
I mean, it's paid for, right?
It was paid for.
So we don't need sewer money.
Well,
What we need is to pay for the asphalt, is what you're trying to
Well,
tell
if you
us.
want to include it in the total dollars that that he has done out there, then yes, you need to include it. It was an expense that was unknown, that was $550,000 that he spent. We already seeded 300, it left 250 out of their pocket.
And what are we giving him, 400?
The asphalt numbers, for instance, from day one, since we pro forma this deal from when I did the original acquisition in 2019,
Uh-huh.
petroleum numbers, you see where fuel prices are at. I mean, a direct byproduct of asphalt is petroleum. So
Yeah.
our numbers are triple. And you can talk to Kurt at Central Paving, he'll tell you.
Yeah.
My initial bids for, say, $300,000 of asphalt work.
Oh, no, I understand the raising price or anything else, but if you only have 250, why are we giving you an extra 150?
But I think the math,
Bill said the 250,
we
That's
spent.
one item out of all of this.
have you got a breakdown of all that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, just like I can, I'll provide a breakdown, I'll show like the
Yeah.
increases of interest, I'll show you the petroleum price increases. I'll, mark down what we spent in the infrastructure, the difference in the infrastructure with the city assist, which I'm,
Yeah.
very appreciative of. I mean, it was
well, we're grateful you come to town, but any business comes to town, are we gonna
Joe, I think
bail them out like
I think
this?
it's also good to mention that
Pardon?
a lot of what you've used and the improvements in that area have been local contractors.
65, 70% of the work that
That's
we've
money
done
going
on
right
But
site.
what I'm saying, Mayor, is when you come in, you've got a business plan, and dealing with your banker, I don't know who your banker is or anything, but most bankers at that level, figure in what the feds are gonna do on interest rates, gas prices and everything else, and that's usually planned in, planned on buildings that I've been in. I remember when we built the Astrodome back in the 60s, started off, it was gonna be 8 million, ended up being 12 and a half. I mean, you can't even tear the thing down for that price now, so.
Well, I can tell you I was a banker for 19 years. You never my checklist of things to factor in was not COVID. Shutdown of the world was not factored in. Material delays was not factored in. And you do interest rate shocks, I agree, but do you do 400 basis points interest rate shocks? No, those banks won't. You do a level that you think may happen that's never, but things that have never happened before, that quick, with all the stuff hitting, you don't factor in all those things.
Oh, y'all don't have any more money down there to give him? Why aren't y'all giving him the 400,000?
I don't work at the bank, Carl.
No, well, I mean, through CETA or anything else down there, I mean, are they out of money? Mike McCord, I sent him a text tonight and asked him, why didn't Mike give him any money?
I think your approach on this is a little wrong. I think.
Okay, why?
Why? Because you're using words like donation and bailout. I think he deserves some professionalism. He came to town, invested a lot of money. Things have happened. He's continuing to go full speed. This is a request.
Okay,
This is a request.
all right.
Joe, I want to make a comment. I've been in this town 60 years, practically. I was out for a couple, 3 years with the job that I'm doing. But you've done, I hate to say it, but if you do nothing else, you've done more to improve that end than has been in years. The parking lot alone, you can lose your vehicle in. So, and I was up at Maryville the other day and saw a Harbor Freight up at Maryville, really nice looking front. I'm hoping that what your visions are, with the other place that you're talking about comes because, like I said, if you did nothing else, that's already improved over what it has been for years.
I mean, we've got 4 deals. We have 2 deals are pretty much signed, which will be announced shortly. And there's been some press on it already. We've got 2 very substantial deals, which I recently disclosed to Bill and Mayor Martin, which I'm under NDA, I can't, which will completely change that whole East End. They're massive retailers, and I come asking for assistance, I have to fill the void for that. The bank's only going to lend me 75% of what those deals are worth. And one of these retailers, you can't charge the kind of rent I can for like a mom and pop business. So I have to absorb the difference. For instance, if my build out's gonna be $2.5 million and that lease is worth $1.5 million, I'm making up that $1 million, which I've done substantially with this project. I mean, I've put a lot of my own capital in here. I mean, I'm in compliance with the bank. I've made all my payments. I've paid all my contractors. But by no means am I leaving town. I purposely revamped the project from doing it all at one time. I phased it intentionally so there wouldn't be any economic issues, and having a vacant parking lot again, this comes from experience. I mean, we know what we're doing. So when I come here, ask for assistance, I'm just not throwing a dart at a
I even saw a guy painting Sears 2 days ago, the outside of the building, so.
I did that for aesthetics, because until I get those signed deals, I didn't want to look at those stupid stripes and those blue awnings anymore, because they were driving me nuts.
Well, once you get the cash flow, it cures a lot of ills.
I know. But the other thing, Carl,
I know you're playing for the F game and, could be October, could be February, but yeah, I understand.
the part
All right,
that,
I got no more, Billy. He's answered my questions, good.
and always feel free if you have questions. to
Oh,
call.
hey, Carl will.
Yeah, please,
Yeah.
and the more questions you ask, the
Yeah.
better.
Any other comments on this particular piece?
I would just say I'm in favor of the 400,000, just for the pure economic development opportunities from it and making it look better over there. I mean, just the parking lot. I know it was already said, but it just looks so much better than it did even a couple years ago. So I have no issues with this.
They'll start the pylon sign next week. They're actually pouring concrete on Friday. So the pylon sign will go up, and the entryway there, because of the 2 new products that we're having come in on that corner, the drive aisle is going to get extended. You probably noticed the new asphalt. The new drive's going to kind of jog, and the curbs are going to get extended. All that stuff will be done within the next few weeks. You'll see the parking lot change further.
Bill talked about people driving around the parking lot up there, they're probably in a state of shock from how well it is. So I applaud you and maybe.
We're going to put in, there's going to be more curbs put in, and, some landscaped islands to try to prevent the race cars that we were having run through those parking lots. And if we have to, we'll put speed bumps in to slow the traffic down. Yeah, we're trying to do whatever we can, because, we've had incidents where you were standing there, cars come zipping through. We've avoided a handful of accidents. So, yeah, I appreciate everyone and everyone's time.
Thank you for your investment.
Appreciate you showing up.
Yeah, of course. So thanks for arranging the meeting.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, everyone.
Next one, the area you're looking at here, I know it looks like a blank gravel, because it is. This is the Riverside Park area. What you're looking at used to be the old water plant site. So if you can picture a year and a half ago, what that looked like over there, looked just as bad or worse than what we just talked about at the mall. We had 2 old plants, and they needed to come down, so we're thankful utilities did that. With that, it got deeded over to RDC. They actually paid for the land. We've engaged with Crossroads Engineer to look at the layout and see what's buildable, what can go there. But basically, we have twofold here. Riverside Park is in desperate need of parking. If you have an event at the carousel or an event period, or they have new pickleball courts, there's little to no parking only on the Riverside with a couple spots along the road, but it's hard to have an event down there. You know, the Squeal on the Eel is parking situation. Parking is desperately needed for them, but it's also needed for anything else we develop there in west. So if you go west of that area, if you go east of it's pickleball courts, west of it is right now bare ground that used to be utilities, 2 plants. We're desirous to have residential. We're desirous to have anything else that would bring attraction to that area to expose our riverfront. For years, we had riverfront owned by government that brought no tax, and it was used for industrial municipality stuff. Now we have an opportunity to develop that area, but no matter what we develop, you can't do it without parking. So Aaron's here, if you can't put whatever you would put there, there's requirements for parking for everything. So we couldn't put what you would want down there without parking dedicated to it. So we do have investors that are looking to do 2 things down there that, Carl, I can bet $1 you'd be happy to see down there.
You're gonna put a gambling boat in the river.
Gambling boat in the river? No.
You won't even have to walk in the water to get to it.
Where are they gonna put the parking spaces? Where the old wastewater treatment?
Basically, the
Right
footprint
there,
of that picture,
just right there.
200 and some
But
are
inside where it belongs to the park right now.
correct.
Or is it
So
gonna
the
be deeded?
developer we're speaking with would give unlimited use, easements, or whatever, to the park.
Okay.
The development would also, we're looking at the size of the parking lot. We've gone through Crossroads and done our homework on this. It fits these 2 projects that we have, the requirements for parking. You'd be looking at 150-ish spaces there that would accommodate the 2 developments we have. I can say it's a local group. I can say beyond.
I just want to get them on the tax roll.
Oh, I do too, sir.
We're gonna do
Sir, I
there,
do
Bill, just
too.
get them on the tax roll.
I do too. They're vetting through the same process that Joe is. Building materials and delays and, cost and things like that. But things are progressing. I've heard positive things from it. We hope to have an announcement soon from this local group. But until then, I think beyond this, there won't be any other request from government from this private investment.
What, you using the word soon, what does that mean?
They have gotten
23, 2024, 2025?
the homework for it. The engineering studies we're within a week. We've got most of it back.
Okay,
The building costs very soon. I would say you will see the construction of one of the projects and the completion of one of the projects in 2023.
by December 31st.
Correct. And it's a desperately needed thing in our community.
Oh, I agree.
Are we talking just where the water filtration plant was, or both plants?
Parking would just be where the water plant is. The developments we have are west of that, which are on the property that,
What's west of that?
right now, nothing.
What did you say?
That's where the two new developments would go.
Okay.
But they would have the parking here. The downside is, to play into what Joe was speaking of, our engineer estimates for this parking lot alone are a lot more than we thought, so in the $1.2 million range. So we're looking at other ways to fill the gap, but
And how many parking spaces were there approximately?
I don't have the exact number. I think it's 150-ish.
150.
Yeah, 150-ish.
That will fit every,
Yeah.
Squeal and Eel next year?
Well, I don't think it'll fit that.
Okay.
It'll help 150 more spaces than we had.
Okay, very good.
Any questions on this request?
And on the parking, we're getting no tax revenue.
Nope, but you wouldn't. Carl, that's the good point, Carl. You can't get 2 new developments without parking.
I agree. No,
Aaron has these requirements.
I'm for anything that's got a better logo. We get some money coming in.
And isn't the understanding that they would then maintain it?
Correct. Once this is built, this new development
Good.
maintains it, owns it, it gives unlimited use for public.
Okay,
Nice.
They seal it, they stripe it again, they repave it in whatever number of years it takes. Correct, this is a one-time
deal.
deal. And it will be owned by them, so there is tax revenue.
Yep.
Whew, this took a lot longer than I- Okay, recap, sorry for everybody sitting back here. The $2.5 million police station, which I think spot on with ARP. I think how you guys structured that, looking to structure it without hampering any operations going forward, and it'll be paid off pretty quick. I think you guys did a great deal on that. The $50,000 was the Emilio's thing we talked about, the Make My Move. Joe, the junction area for the 400, and the Riverside parking 750. We know it does not add up to the 3.98.
Nope.
We have 130,000 that could be used for contingencies, or we have a couple other things. Of course, we could use it for. We have Exide, which is another bad thing to look at in our community. We could look at that. And then if you look at going more west of Riverside, the hopes would be to get all the way to 6th Street. There's still area there that is still being used by others, but we're looking to potentially, when houses come up, we are looking to potentially buy them. So anyway, these are just other ideas, but mainly this is the core. And I know I've taken a lot of time, but
Nope, but we spent 1,350,000 out of 1.48, so spend it, it's gone, it's gone.
I know. This is our group's proposal. We have questions. I know probably tonight's not the best time. We would like maybe questions between now and your November meeting, and we would like to have it on a resolution prepared for the November meeting. And I'll leave hard copies in case we reference questions for later. Sorry for taking so long.
It's okay.
Carl's fault.
That's right, Carl's fault. That's right, Billy.
I would just ask before we move any further, is there anyone out here that are community priorities that wants to add anything, or are there any questions out here for Bill, or?
I'm interested in the Exide property also. I'd like to see it included.
What is the excise?
All right, Jacob, do you mind speaking on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I don't have all of the answers. The number we put in there, the 20,000, was a placeholder. I've been in discussion with the trust, the bankruptcy trust that is in control of the Exide site now. They're willing to just give it away. They don't have money to maintain it. They won't mow it. They can't pay the taxes. So the 20,000 would be for, if we were to acquire it from them for nothing, we would have to pay the taxes that are on it. We'd have to pay the title and closing and all of that. And then due to some of the things that the utility company is doing, we have an ability to potentially get upwards of $3 million in free grant money from the state to expedite the cleanup of that property. So we wouldn't be just taking it on as an open-ended liability. We'd be taking it on rather quickly into next year, actually, with the understanding that the state would give us possibly $3 million to do the remediation of it.
I was told the taxes were up to date. This is back in August. I haven't talked to him down there, so the taxes are delinquent now?
I believe so. I'd have to check again.
Well,
but-
check again.
but-
because, I mean, it's,
As of the last time we checked, last month, it was spring.
pardon?
Last month that we checked, spring was.
Okay, and what was that amount? I mean, how did we come up with the 20,000 is what I'm asking. How'd you come up with that number?
Because it would have been this year's taxes, basically. I think the taxes were around 9,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so then it should be about $9,000.
You're gonna have some legal fees and.
We have to pay the closing.
Get my buddy
If-
up there, let's pay him a few extra.
Yeah,
bucks.
Carl, the Exide piece was put in here as kind of a contingency, like,
Okay.
we have this money left over. If we need it for something else, we can use it, we can find another way to fund the Exide site, but if we have this money sitting here, it would be a great eligible use for it. And we can nail down the costs and come with an actual request. It wasn't fully part of the request for tonight, because we're not there yet, we don't have all the information. And, yeah, it'd be nice if we could just, wait for it to, go on tax sale or something, but,
You been in touch with IDEM lately?
I've been,
And the feds out of, because every time I talk to the feds in Chicago, they refer me back to IDEM, and I got the guy's name written down.
yeah, so they were involved with the bankruptcy negotiations. The Indiana Brownfields program hasn't been involved in these discussions, and the Indiana Finance Authority are the ones who, in a meeting that I had with them in Indianapolis, said that because of the utilities SRF loan that they'll be getting probably early next year, we could piggyback onto that and get $2 to $3 million in grant funding, free and clear, for that site. But we would have to acquire the site prior to the utility closing on the loan, which is why we can't just wait for this to.
And have they decided yet, or given us a number, what it's gonna cost to clean it up?
The estimates that we got from BCA, our environmental consultants, were between the $3 and $5 million range for the entire site.
Okay.
We think that, and that would depend on the use. If you wanted it to be residential housing, then you probably have to spend the whole $5 million. If you want it to be industrial, then it probably could be the $3 million cleanup would get everything done, and maybe less. I've talked to some people recently who think that it could be actually way less than that based on what some of the potential uses are. But the amount of money that we have from the IFA will kind of be set just based on, they can lower the interest rate for the utilities loan and give us the principal. But there's always options. If we don't have the funding to do all of it, we can parcel it off and then go for other cleanup grants through the EPA potentially for the rest of the site and get what we can get done for the $3 million. But it's a great opportunity that's kind of fallen into our lap here in the last couple of months, and by early next year, we're hoping to
Well,
take
I would think, but I haven't talked to anybody at Exide, just the feds and the state, that they're probably willing to give it to us.
They are willing.
Even pay us to take it.
Yes, they are willing to give it to us.
Why not bring it into them that they pay for all the closing costs and legal for us to get the deed?
Because they don't have the money and they'll just let it
Who
go.
doesn't have money?
The trust. Okay. I'm just telling you what the
No.
conversations that I've had with them.
Okay.
Kelly and I are working on the purchase, the liability transfer agreement, because there's no purchase, it'll be
Kelly says it.
$1. But they would just let it go, basically. They would let it go to tax sale or whatever and just.
Well, they've been out of
everybody to take
business
it, I
over there
guess.
how long? 20 years?
You run the risk of it going out of tax sales.
Oh, no.
Somebody buying it that you don't want to
Yeah.
buy.
Oh, I agree.
And if we don't take possession by first
No,
quarter.
I agree with you,
we could
get
lose
it,
out to
but
$3
then
million.
for us to pay them 20 grand, but hey.
Yeah, we're not paying them. It would be paying basically the county and, Cass County Title or whoever would do the title work on it. So no money would be going to them. It'd just be
And that's what, 17 acres over there?
17 acres, yeah. Yeah, it's a great opportunity, but that's why we put it in there. Just, if we had no other use for some of this money other than contingency, I think that would be a really great way to spend some of the ARP.
What kind of timetable were we looking at?
For,
What you're gonna do to acquire this
I
from
mean,
inside? I mean, we talking 2023?
yeah,
Good.
Carl, it'll be really early in 2023. It'll have to match up with the utilities timeline.
I got a timeline, good.
Yeah.
Maybe quicker if we.
Yeah, after the first conversation I had with them, we thought I might have to get this done by December. But now it appears things have been pushed back a little bit, so we can do probably January, February.
Talk to IADM down there again, you probably have, Kelly, but yeah, they're good people.
Yeah, and they'll have to review the agreements as well.
Get a deadbeat program off their hands too.
Oh, they are, and the feds don't have anything to do with that in Chicago.
Mm.
They keep sticking it on IDEM out of India, so that's fair.
So, yeah, I will come with more information on
All right.
that part of
And
it.
we can always propose that, I mean, as as a not-to-exceed amount, rather than try to come up with an exact amount to start with.
Yeah.
I don't believe in giving anything, but that's all right, that's just me.
Well, they don't have anything to give, so.
Yeah.
Well, I know they don't.
They won't be getting
No, they've,
anything from us. We just have to
Okay.
pay for the legal stuff, basically.
okay.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Thank you for that suggestion, Mercedes. Well, I would like to just go down through the projects. I mean, are there some of these projects that we can say tonight we have no issue with moving forward, or do you guys want to, I mean?
Are we moving this forward to tonight's agenda, or are we moving
No,
this
it would be on
forward to
November
November the
7th.
seventh?
November 7th.
Well, out of the ones that are on there, if we're not gonna move them all to November 7th, at least move Joe's 400,000 so he can get this thing done out there, so he can get some cash flow.
I agree.
So,
All right, well, let's
Joe
just,
told me
let's go
give
down
it-
through the list.
okay, that's
Carl?
fine.
Let's start with the 50,000 seated reimbursement.
Well, the 2.5 we've already gave.
Yes.
Okay,
That's why I skipped it.
all right. That's all right, that's all right.
You're sharp, I like that. Amy, how do you feel?
I'm fine.
Anybody have any questions with the 50,000 for seated reimbursement? Okay, we'll move that forward. How about the 150,000 for Make My Move? How do we feel?
I'm not interested in that.
I think it's a good investment. I'll move it forward.
I agree with them.
I agree.
And Carl's already voiced his opinion
Oh,
on the
yeah. Joe answered my
400,000.
questions.
Anybody else have any concerns with that one? Okay, we'll move the infrastructure forward. How about the 750,000 for Riverside parking?
I want to hear more about what the future is going to bring in that area
Yeah.
before I go any further with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Amy?
I'm okay with it, but I'm disappointed that Dykeman.
Clubhouse was not part of it.
Nothing was mentioned on that.
Oh, you mean as far as funding for the
Yeah.
golf course? Okay.
There's language in ARP that, and I would need to refresh and maybe have Jacob come up, but there's ARP language that specifically says you can't use it for golf courses.
Really?
I would like to help Dean out too, but
One of the things that we've talked about, and Jan and I just met the other day, I think you know they've got a group that's working on some fundraising. And, you know, the thought would be to let them get to a certain threshold and then do the engineering funding. We've got a couple projects that'll drop off the seated after 2023, which would put us in a position to fund the engineering work. And then at that point, if they had most of the money raised, we could possibly do a financing structure similar to what we did for the Y or Memorial Hospital to fulfill that need. You know, they're shooting for 2026 as their goal. So it hadn't been forgotten, it's just one of those, there was some indecision about how the art money could be used possibly for that, whether that was good or bad, but it certainly hadn't been.
Well, you know, I'm at Riverside Park every day, so of course I'm gonna support it, but.
what's the total cost of the clubhouse? Oh.
40 million.
Huh? 3 million? You think you can get it done for 3?
What's that?
You think you can get that done for 3? I was thinking more like 4.5, but that's Carl. No, that's Carl saying that. No, what you're looking at, and, yeah. All right, no.
At 4.5, Carl, we can have the Masters here, right, Dean? We can build a nice place for the Masters.
So let's go back to Riverside Park
Okay.
before Carl gives it all to the Masters. Amy, you're all okay with that?
I am.
Jonathan, where are you at on this?
I'm in favor of it. Parking over there is a serious issue, especially if we have big events like what Bill was saying, so I think it'd help alleviate some of that parking stress on people.
Yeah.
It's a yes.
I think it's a good idea, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about it.
I wish I could tell you about it. I think we're very, I texted the individual today, and I asked if I could say something tonight, and he said, no, but we're extremely close, apologize. You'll be the first group, I call.
But when you
Tell.
can, I'll be more apt to do it.
I think it could possibly be before your vote, too.
All right,
Well, we can,
I recommend, Dave, to move all of them to the November 7th meeting for an up and down vote. People don't want to vote for it, say no. The ones who vote for it want to say yes, and just move it
Yeah,
all
but I don't
forward.
want to do that because I'm not against other things that are on there.
Well,
If I shoot down, if I say no for the 750, then I'm saying no to Joe, and I'm not doing that.
well, you said no on the fire, or the police station, so,
Well, that's right, and I still would.
well, no. No, I agree, Larry. That was his vote, like.
well,
that's-
I'll tell you what we can do. I don't know if it's feasible or not.
Take each one individually.
And I was gonna say, we could write a resolution for each one. I know that Dwayne and Bill and I and several others just love resolutions.
Well,
If that would make you guys feel,
Dwayne's up there scratching his head, he's getting bolder by the minute, he could be like the mayor there, saying, look at that, or our attorney there, look at that.
In
I'm
honesty,
not saying, I'm not holding it.
in all honesty, though, that may be the way we ought to do it anyway, Dave, because of the fact for our, it would give us a better paper trail
Yeah,
to follow where all the funds, and it would be able, we'd be able to pull them out.
I agree,
Should
Dwayne.
go by each one separately?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I favor that more than going with
Okay.
a group. Yeah.
and was there a consensus on the 20, not to exceed 20,000 for Exide at this time?
I think that sounds good, yeah.
All right.
Most of that for attorney.
With that,
Sorry.
That's right. We're taking that out of your paycheck there, attorney.
it's gonna be one itemized statement on your time. All right, well, we'll move all those forward to November 7th. I want to thank everybody that's on the community priorities. You know, we bring these to the council, and there was a lot of discussion, like Bill said, about a lot of different things, prioritizing, trying to come up with the best way. And a couple things stand true, that they do follow the ARPA guidelines pretty well. And one of the things that I think Eric and Andy kind of emphasized to us was to do projects that people will remember with that amount of money. You know, years from now, they'll know what their money was spent, what that money was spent for that we were given. So I think we picked some really good projects here, and I want to thank everybody that was involved in that.
We've got $53,000 left. Billy will find a way to spend that.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to public safety, the longevity. As I wrote to you guys about this when we did the budget, we agreed to extend longevity for all our employees, 25 years. We have an ordinance that currently states 20 years for both public safety and the civil city. I sent you the revised ordinances to review. Does anybody have any questions about those?
I don't.
Any concerns? Are we okay with moving those ordinances forward?
Is that on the agenda tonight?
No.
Oh, that's
Be on
gonna be the
November
7th?
7th.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, that brings us up to the golf course handbook. Dean, you want to come up for a minute? And tonight is just merely a discussion. We may have something put together by the 7th. Do you want to kind of explain to them what we're trying to correct here, Dean?
Well, just some language over, when we did our handbook, and I don't know why or how it came back around. It seems like it's came up a couple times over the years. But it basically is stating that we don't have, I mean, the insurance doesn't have to come out of the golf course's budget, along with longevity, or not longevity, workman's comp was it, and a couple other things, and just clean up language where, you know, we try to, you know, cover all of our expenses. you know, there are some things like insurance that we don't cover. Capital's a little tough for us anymore, but that's basically what we're doing is clean up some language in it. Am I saying that good enough, I guess?
It really is. I mean, none of the funding that's been going on with the golf course will change. It's merely, Robin actually showed me a letter. State Board of Accounts brought it to the attention of the city.
What year was that?
It was like 2014.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was, and that was, I mean, I won't even go into what was going on
Yeah.
back then too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother administration that,
But the State Board of Accounts noticed that the city was paying for the insurance and the workman's comp and stuff, whereas the handbook and the resolutions at that time and still to today say they're supposed to be paying for all that. There's no way they could pay their own insurance out there and whatnot. So we're rewriting it. Robin's working with me and Dwayne and forgotten her name, Jan. That's, how long have we been here?
3 hours.
Working with all of us to try to clean that up so that we're in, that.
It's just, yeah, it's one of the things that we tried, I mean, the intentions was to be this way and how you read it, we're just trying to clear it up.
Yeah, so that
Make
the
it cleaner.
language reads what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So is everyone all, like I said, we're still working on it. Hopefully we'll have a final version to get put together by November.
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
All right, Dwayne, you wanna, thank you, Dean.
Yeah, thank you, Dean.
Talk about the software,
Yeah, well, it's actually our hardware, our servers.
hardware. See,
So
that's-
you guys you guys have already had one reading on our approving 90,000 for new software upgrade, or new hardware, server upgrade, excuse me. But since then, I've done some more investigating and rather than taking 90,000 to do that, and talking with our company that we're working with for Visual Edge, they offered to give us a deal with, we could lease it to own for 3 years, with the cost being reduced down to about under 35,000. I think it's 34,710 per year. So by doing that, it would keep us from drawing that cum cap fund down too low and allow it to continue to build for the next 3 years as we go forward. What we would do is just be like, the ordinance would be just what you've already approved. I just changed the value to 35,000. And it would only be for the 1 year, because after that, we could budget it then for 24 and 25, and there wouldn't be any other need for any additional funds. It would just be budgeted out of that capital.
We would own the equipment afterwards, right?
Yes, we would own the equipment, plus we'd have the warranties with it and everything else. Right now, the big problem I'm having right now is trying to keep an accurate quote for you. I got one that, like I said, 34,000, I think 710 was what they gave me for this, but they're having trouble holding stuff. When I talked to Visual Edge, they've rewritten this agreement about 3 times because they can only hold equipment for 24 hours and then it's gone. So the essence of trying to get this done and get this in place before, we can't do our software upgrade until we do this. So
Okay,
we're kind of
we've already
stuck.
passed the 90, so we just need to re-advise.
You just amend it, you just have to do an amendment for that ordinance to say
And we're gonna put
that
this
you're
on
gonna
the-
amend it down to 35,000. The way the ordinance is written, it says for lease, rent, or owning,
Okay,
when I wrote that up. So we're covered that way. It's only the difference is the amount.
okay.
So, and we had a public hearing set for the 7th,
Okay.
for the 90,000, but we can
Move it
amend
to
that,
30,
move
okay.
it to 35.
That's good.
Everybody all right with moving that forward? All right, and then we have, street department, had some transfer requests. I sent you those requests. Basically, what's happened, because of the price of gas, their gas fund was depleted, and they've moved some money from a couple other, budget line items to covers. They need some more funding in garage. Dean, can you explain exactly what you pay out of your garage fund? Birch. Tony.
Like I said, I'm having trouble here.
That's all right, Tony.
How long have I?
Yeah, doggone. That's all right, Tony.
I apologize.
That's that Alzheimer's.
I get it. I've only been here 37 years, Dave. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that comes from, this has been like, hopefully, it's been like a 100-year flood year for us with mechanical things going wrong. And we've had a ton of them. Some of them we fix in-house, some of them have to go to Weirs to get fixed. You know, the new trucks with all the great electronics are all great until something breaks and you know, we don't have the technology to fix them. So yeah, it's just been a fluke of a year for things like that. And then of course, fuel has, you know, 30% increase in fuel has killed us, and you know, we took the auction money and put in there. But you know, starting next week, we're going to be filling up 3-leaf vacs every other day and dump trucks every other day, and we're going to go through it pretty quick.
So is everybody okay with moving those funds?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. What's your name again? Thank you, Tony. And I believe that's on tonight's agenda, Dwayne?
Yeah, it was included.
Okay.
It's a resolution.
All right, the only other thing I have left, we wanted to let you know, Baker Tilly secured the bond funding through a bank called Webster Bank. Believe it or not, Webster Bank is out of California, I believe, weren't they, Dean? They gave us the best offer at 3.95, and the only, well, they ranged from there up to 4.65, and that was, all of those were for 6-year notes or bonds, and if we went to a 12-year, the rates went up accordingly, and it would have cost us approximately $400,000 to $500,000 more dollars in financing.
For the 6-year.
So Dwayne and I locked in the loan at the 3.95%, and Baker Tilly's wrapping that up. Dwayne has set up the funds through First Farmers so that.
First Farmers account has been opened now. We opened it on Friday. So we're ready to receive money into that account so they can start drawing on it.
What was that for again?
The jail.
Yeah, that's what I keep calling
The police
station.
Jail. I was
The
thinking
old
of
lady,
the
the
jail.
old Longfellow.
I visited too many people there, I guess. Anyway, so that's what, that's all been put into place.
Great, thank you.
Does anybody else have any finance-related topics?
Nope, you're gonna be finished, Mayor, by December 31st, huh?
What?
Next year?
Oh, yeah, well, I hope so.
Well, no, there you go, hoping again. You sound like Billy Cuppy now. Hey.
I'm gonna close the finance meeting at 7:38.
7:38 p.m., Mayor Chris Martin calling to order the special called session of the
Before you get too excited,
regular.
I gotta get some stuff set up.
Okay, we're gonna take a moment here. Anybody need to use the restroom? Take a break? Anybody in the audience want to leave or stay?
Don't give him that option. Nelson still can't rally. There you go again, so don't give him a hall pass.
Well, I'm gonna use.
Thanks for all your work on that.
Really? Yeah, wait a minute. That's too bad.
I better get my drink.
Yeah,
Maybe that was good.
it might, Nope. Larry, we got 53,000 left out of that money. It's all gone, so,
You might as well just put in the gumball machine.
yeah.
I don't know. What's supposed to be the amount?
Pardon?
It was gonna be about the possible bidder, but he was supposed, he tried calling everybody and said that, they wanted to review it further, so we're not, it's just gonna be, I think he's just gonna open it generally and then close it. Probably, if he's not talking about the RBO, it shouldn't, it was about the responsible
This
bidding. ordinance.
Riverside Park thing, how's come only a couple of us know what's going on, but the rest of us are in the dark? I'm not voting for anything. Hell, I've gave out blank checks before, I ain't doing it again.
Who knows about the development at Westwood South?
Riverside Park.
No, I know the parking, but.
Well, the parking's one thing.
Yeah, well, that's just for interface with parking over there, from what I know.
That's like Erie Avenue.
Oh, I know.
Ray Street is
Erie
Ray
Avenue.
Street. Erie Avenue is Erie Avenue.
Is Second Street done yet?
Oh, no. We still got trucks underneath the railroad
I
overpass.
saw that, was your daughter, or your wife, the other day, I like that.
Scares me to
The
death.
semi went under there again.
Scares me to death to go through there anytime with the train going over the top.
Well, I'm afraid it's gonna fall.
I am too. And I'll be the one underneath of it. Hey, it's one up on a white fence on High Street. It's one up on a white fence on High Street.
There's what?
It's one up on the white fence on High Street.
Yeah, but I don't think the insurance company allowed them to put the white fence back up again.
I don't think so.
No, the insurance company told them they canceled their policy.
10 times.
Huh? No.
Yeah, seriously,
Well,
that is a lot.
no. Well, that's what I was told. I don't know who lives there.
Betty, Gil, Gil and Betty.
Thomas?
Had the real estate.
Thomas.
Tom, okay, yeah.
Are they still alive? Yeah, Gil's not. Gil's not alive, is he?
No.
I think Betty's.
Betty is.
Okay. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we gotta wait on Dwayne, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The extension of the trail.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Hey, Scott, are you still doing the rules committee meeting or not? Are you still gonna hold that rules committee meeting or not? But-
That's right.
Open it,
You ready now? Yeah. All right, it's 7:42 p.m. on Monday, October 24th, 2022. I'm Mayor Chris Martin calling to order the special called session of the Logan Square Common Council. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Amy Densmore,
Present.
Larry Hood,
Present.
Jonathan Nelms,
Present.
Jacob Don,
Present.
Scott Petey,
Present.
Carl McPherson,
Here.
Dave Morris,
Present.
Start with the approval of minutes for the regular session's October 3rd, 2022 meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Amy Densmore,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Jacob Don,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Carl McPherson.
Yes.
Carl wasn't here.
I
No,
said
I
you
wasn't
weren't
here,
were
that's
you?
right. Thanks, Amy.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Reports from committees, boards, and commissions.
Planning and Economic Development Committee met on October the 12th. The only topic of discussion was on redistricting. That has been moved forward to tonight's agenda.
Yes, there was a Finance Committee meeting on October 10th where Superintendent Toth and Jennifer Wilson from Crow were here to talk about capital improvements and the CSO projects, as well as possible rate changes to accommodate those needs. And on October 24th, which was today, I have no idea. No. I'm sorry. We discussed Make My Move. Bill Cuppy did the ARPA presentation. We talked about the public safety and civil city employee longevity changes, the golf course handbook revisions, the city hardware server upgrade, and some transfers for the street department, and the funding that was acquired for the police station renovations.
Any other reports from committees, boards, and commissions? All right. Seeing none, starting with old business, ordinance 2022-37, Councilman Ladon.
Ordinance 2022-37, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, fixing salaries for appointed officials and employees of the City of Logansport, Indiana for the year 2023. I ask for a vote on ordinance 2022-37.
I second it.
Jonathan. I think I got it by like a half second.
You got her there. That's
Any further
fine.
discussion?
I didn't know you was gonna okay it. I wanted to pass.
Call for question.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Amy Densborn,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Jake Ladon,
Yes.
Carl McPherson,
Yes.
Jonathan Nelms.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-37 passes on its second reading. Ordinance 2022-38, Councilman Morris.
Ordinance 2022-38, ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, fixing the annual salaries of elected officials of the City of Logansport, Indiana for the period beginning January 1st, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2023. I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Scott Petey,
No.
Larry Hood,
No.
Carl McPherson,
Yes.
Amy Densborn,
No.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Jake Ladon.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-38 passes on its second reading, 4-3. All right, new business, resolution 2022-148, Councilman Nelms.
Resolution 2022-148, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, transferring appropriations for the street department. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on resolution 2022-148.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Jake Ladon,
Yes.
Amy Densborn,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Carl McPherson,
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Resolution 2022-148 passes. Ordinance 2022-39, Councilman Hood.
Ordinance 2022-39 is an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport of Cass County, Indiana, establishing new Logansport Municipal City Council wards. Mayor Martin, I ask for a vote on, first reading vote on ordinance 2022-39.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Well, I noticed that both of them were in the packet. The committee moved forward the second option, but they're both in here, so I guess we're deciding on that again.
That's the reason why I put them both in there, because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, the committee has decided on the second, but I don't really.
So that way you got, that's the one you'll vote on then.
Okay. I was
Which
just
one?
making sure. The second option, the one that switches Scott and Carl's wards.
So Ward 5 and that has precinct 6, Logan Sport 6.
Carl's gonna be in Walton next year.
Gotcha.
I'm feeling the love there.
I love it. That's right. Hey, that's right.
You gotta put that together.
That's right. I love it. All right, call for question.
No, Jerry.
Oh, that's all right.
So I want to be clear on this. So we're voting, the one that's in here first is the second option. Is that correct, or am I?
You're gonna have to ask Erin, because I think she's our
Is
resident.
this the one you're looking at?
We don't see it.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, that one. That's the second, the second option, I believe.
So that's the opportunity.
139 residents for 1001 and 1005, which is what Scotland says. So whatever this one's showing, that's the right one.
That's option
Scott
two.
and Carl to be in different.
Yeah, it's gotta be in 5 with this one.
Right, with this, that's showing on the screen.
Okay, everyone got it? All
Is
right.
that okay as is then?
Motion in a second.
Is someone second? I'll second.
I made the second.
Oh, okay, Scott.
Sounds good. Call for question.
Can I say, just ask a request here? Jonathan, after we pass this on first reading, would you please verify that everything in here is correct?
Yes, I will.
Amy Dinsmore,
Epstein?
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Jake Ladon,
Yes.
Jonathan Elms,
No.
Carl McPherson.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-39 passes on its first reading. Public comments. Anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment, please come to the mic, state your name and address for us. Seeing none, council member comments?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment, for council members, we bring in, we'll have a public safety meeting sometime, probably around the 1st of November. The fire chief has brought up, with the county going into a different radio system with their departments. The chief is asking that maybe possibly Logan Sport kind of goes in on the program that the county is doing. So we'll be discussing, new radios, portable radios.
Is that those systems where they intermesh with each
Yeah,
other?
yeah. So we can, so we're not blind out there when it comes to working with the county.
Practicing contest from 10 years ago.
Any other council member comments?
Yeah, for my vote on ordinance 2022-38, the hesitancy was due to not believing city council members should receive a raise. That amendment failed previously, but I do believe that the full-time elected officials doing this every day did deserve a raise, and that is why I voted yes.
I thought you voted no.
I voted yes.
Any other council member comments? All right. Miscellaneous business and any matters in order to consider, including ADA Section 504 compliance or concern.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
So still, Carl, I got a
Call for
rules
question.
meeting.
Oh, sit still, Carl. There's another meeting here.
Oh,
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Jonathan Elms,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Carl McPherson,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Jake Ladon.
Yes.
7:54 PM, we are adjourned.
7:55, I'll call a Rules Committee meeting to order. We had one item on the agenda, which was Dutch Ventures RBO, responsible bidding ordinance. Got a call from a businessman, owner, wanted to have time to look it over and discuss it further. So we're gonna table that, if we need to vote on that, to table. Yeah, I make a motion then to table that until the next meeting, which I tentatively plan to get on November 7th before the regular council meeting. So I need a second.
Is this where we're gonna have multiple business people come in and talk about this?
At least a couple, yeah.
Oh, I second.
Okay.
And then if we okay it, is it gonna be on November 7th?
We're gonna be discussing, we're tabling it tonight, we're gonna discuss it November 7th before the regular committee, the regular
And
council
if
meeting.
we okay it, then
At that
are we
point.
gonna vote on it on November 7th?
Yes.
And you have everything away by then? Okay. Anything else?
Gotta vote on it.
Oh,
Well, you just,
Well, I'm
just
not
do
sure,
your,
we never voted to
just,
bring
just
it
do your,
forward.
just do your
We're
call.
voting to table it.
But we
just the-
didn't
You don't
vote to,
vote to table it. in
Well,
committee.
I would say
You
take a
just-
motion to table, or not take a motion, but just make sure everybody's agreeable with
Yeah,
it.
we just agree.
Okay.
You don't
So-
take a vote.
Yeah.
all right, so what he's moving it forward, the Rules Committee on November the 7th.
No, Carl, I'm running the meeting, so still.
I've said it right.
We just need, if we wanna move this on to the November 7th meeting, Amy, what do you say?
I'm not, I was never in favor of moving it forward.
For discussion, we're tabling it, we're gonna move it forward to another committee meeting to discuss it. And we'll be voting on it on November 7th if it's moved forward.
She's saying she doesn't want to discuss it.
Is that what you're saying?
I guess.
Well, last meeting I said, no, I didn't want to move it forward.
Okay.
So, I don't,
Is that another no then?
yeah, I'm not interested in moving that forward, not in a town this size.
Okay.
No.
Table? What, yeah, what?
Table.
Table? Yes or no?
Yes, I would just, my only comment would be, if you're gonna have a discussion about it on November 7th, it's gonna be pretty hard for you to have it ready if the current RBO has to be revised.
Yeah, and I'm not for having a meeting and then voting on something in that same meeting. We've had too much of that in the past.
Not something
Okay.
of this magnitude.
So are you gonna plan a meeting on the 1st, Larry?
I'm not sure what day, but it would probably be on a Monday. So,
That'd be the
but I haven't
31st.
discussed it with the chief to find out when he's
Monday's the
available.
31st.
Would I need to make a motion to possibly get it to a little earlier in case that does need revised? to
Are you, I'm sorry, I was talking to the mayor. Are you gonna move, are you moving it forward?
Well,
To discuss
Larry-
before the meeting?
Larry and Amy both made the point, and Dave too said if it needs revised, we shouldn't do it on the date that we're gonna move forward to vote on it, so I'll move it forward to, I'll make a motion to move it to the 31st. Depending on Larry, I want to piggyback on Larry's meeting before that, and we
And
can
that's-
discuss it then. If
that's
it needs
not-
revised, we'll have.
Yeah, we
a
haven't
week.
set up a date yet. I'll have to talk to the fire chief.
Let me know what you find out.
Okay.
Yeah, just, you can move it to that, that's fine.
What do you think, Amy, yes or no?
I mean,
Discuss it earlier in case it needs revised, or,
yeah, I just
yeah?
think as an elected official, we need to realize what the people want in our community.
And that's why at least two of the business owners are gonna be here to discuss that.
And it should be publicized.
Yeah. Larry? You're moving in favor to before the 7th? So we can discuss it, and if it needs revised, we'll have time to do that?
I don't care.
Yes or no?
No, I'll stick with no.
Yes,
Yes?
yes,
I
yes.
say yes. Yes?
Yes.
I'm gonna say yes.
Let's move forward. At 8 o'clock, the meeting is over.